The ocean is an economic powerhouse. It provides us with food and other essential resources, and livelihoods for millions of people worldwide. This ocean economy is set to double by 2030, but only if the ocean is healthy. Unsustainable activities, ineffective governance, climate change, and pollution are all diminishing the health of our ocean. If we use our knowledge and technology, and if we partner governments with research and industry to promote sustainable ocean use, and if governments put in place frameworks that protect the marine environment and its productivity for the benefit of all ocean industries, we could have a healthy and productive ocean forever.
Good morning, everyone. It is my great honor to welcome you to the virtual launch of the Group of Friends to Combat Marine Plastic Pollution, today on World Oceans Day. I'm Tilmisa Hussain, permanent representative of the Republic of Maldives to the United Nations. My country, the Maldives, along with Antigua and Barbuda in Norway, are delighted to co-host today's event and to co-chair this group of friends. As a Maldivian, I grew up surrounded by some of the planet's most beautiful beaches, aquatic life, corals, and ocean. The threat of marine plastic pollution is an immediate threat to our beaches, communities, and our way of life. Thus, I'm delighted that this group of friends is tackling the issue head on. The meeting will run for at least 2 hours, perhaps a bit longer. We hope you can stay with us for the entire duration. Please use the hashtag #CombatMarinePlastic to tag your thoughts, questions, and ideas on social media. Once again, that's hashtag #CombatMarinePlastic. The seeds of this group of friends were stitched last year in informal discussions with ambassadors of Norway and Antigua and Barbuda. And it is truly amazing that we are launching today with over 46 founding members. Our goal is to continue to raise awareness of the seriousness of this issue and to garner support and build consensus to address marine plastic pollution. We have an exciting program today. We will begin with messages from the Prime Minister of Norway and ministers of Antigua and Barbuda and the Maldives as high-level representatives of the co-chairs of the group of friends. And then we'll move into messages from high-level representatives of the United Nations. I will then hand things over to the permanent representative of Norway, my dear friend Mona Jul, to facilitate the ministerial dialogue and statements from the founding members of the group of friends. Finally, my good friend Ambassador Webson, permanent representative of Antigua and Barbuda, will deliver concluding remarks and wrap up the meeting. So without further delay, let me begin by introducing our first speaker participating by video message, Her Excellency Erna Solberg, the Prime Minister of Norway. Her Excellency Ms. Erna Solberg has served as Prime Minister of Norway since 2013. In 2016, she co-chaired the UNSG's advocacy group for the SDGs. And in 2018, she assembled a global high-level panel for a sustainable ocean economy and introduced the topic at the G7 summit. Her government has been a leader on environmental issues, and particularly on oceans issues. And we are delighted and honored to have her share a video message for the launch of our group of friends.
Excellencies, friends of the oceans, and members of the group of Friends to Combat Marine Plastic Pollution. Let me first thank our co-chairs Antigua and Barbuda and the Maldives for their leadership and collaboration on this topic. This is an issue that is close to my heart. I grew up by the sea in a country that relies on the oceans for 2/3 of its export revenues. I understand the importance of healthy and productive oceans. Together with my good friend, President Remangasau of Palau, I co-chair the high-level panel of a sustainable ocean economy. The panel recently published a report on ocean pollution, highlighting the oceans as the ultimate sink for the pollution caused by human activity. Plastic litter is a growing concern. This kind of marine litter can be transported by ocean currents over long distances, and we find it in the Arctic and on the shores of remote Pacific islands. Plastic pollution poses a threat to marine life, to people's livelihoods, and to the global economy as a whole. In 2017, the world agreed to work towards the long-term elimination of all discharge of plastic litter into the oceans. To succeed, we need a new global framework that will help us all to pull in the same direction. The group of friends we are launching today will push for an ambitious action to address plastic pollution effectively at the global level. The COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted the way we all live our lives and has grave global consequences for public health and the state of our economies. The poorest among us have been hit the hardest. If ever there was a need for global leadership, it is now. I believe that the group gathered here today can lead the way towards cleaner, healthier oceans for generations to come. So let's get down to business.
It is now my honor to introduce my minister, the Foreign Minister of the Maldives, His Excellency Abdullah Shahid. Minister Shahid has had a distinguished career in the Maldives Foreign Service stretching back to 1983. He was also a long-serving parliamentarian spanning 25 years in elected office, during which time he also served as the first democratically elected Speaker of the Parliament for 5 years. Minister is a vigorous advocate for small islands, human rights, good governance, rights of parliamentarians, and combating climate change. Please join me in welcoming a champion for oceans issues, my boss, Minister Shahid.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Till, for that very generous introduction. Good morning to most of you who are joining from New York. Good evening to my colleagues here in the Maldives, and a good day to everyone generally. Since this is a virtual meeting, I believe we are all being connected through different time zones. Allow me to thank you for taking the time to join us today on this auspicious occasion. We have been eagerly awaiting the official launch of the group of friends to combat marine plastic pollution, and it is fitting that the launch is taking place on World Oceans Day. The Maldives and its partner countries in the group have felt the urgency to ramp up efforts in all corners of the globe to combat marine plastic pollution as its devastating effects have become more evident. It is with great optimism that we are launching this initiative with the support of 46 founding members. The purpose of this group of friends is to formulate a response at the global level, to raise awareness and to advocate for action to combat marine plastic pollution. It is the members of this group that will be on the front lines in ensuring that we explore innovative global responses to what is becoming a serious threat to all our countries. It is our hope that this initiative will build momentum to achieve a greater understanding of the problem, to expand our network to include the private sector and civil society, and to formalize a global arrangement that could decisively act to combat marine plastic pollution. For the Maldives, as a SIDS, our ocean is also the lifeblood of our economy. It is what provides us and millions of people living on coastlines around the world with sustenance. As history has taught us, oceans are an integral part in the exchange of goods, people, and ideas, of culture and friendship. But today, we face an uncertain reality when it comes to the health of our oceans. The use of plastic is projected to increase substantially in the next few decades. We have already seen the evidence of it happening. Fields of litter dotting the oceans, pictures of marine sea life struggling to survive in what has become an ocean of waste. There is hope, however. A global consensus is formed that the exponential increase in marine plastic litter and microplastics gravely threatens economies and the marine environment. This is a problem that requires global solutions due to its transboundary effects. It is clear that a lot of important work has already gone into combating marine plastic pollution. Individual countries are showing that more sustainable ways are indeed possible. I'm pleased to reiterate that the Maldives is committed to phasing out single-use plastic by 2023. His Excellency President Ibrahim Muhammad Saleh announced last September in New York that the Maldives aims to fully protect at least 20% of our ocean in the coming years, and called upon governments to commit to fully or highly protect at least 30% of the ocean by 2030, and to take steps to ensure the remaining 70% is substantially managed. The Maldives has already been collaborating with international environmental organizations and networks to substantially grow ocean economies and to ensure a thriving marine environment for future generations. In schools, we have launched a nationwide exploration program to ban single-use plastics. We have also increased tariffs that are being applied to non-biodegradable bags. As we enter the decade for action, we need to strengthen our efforts and commit to ambitious actions. The current COVID-19 pandemic is a wake-up call to humanity, to redefine our way of life, to recommit to build back better and more sustainably. Despite the challenges we face, we cannot be complacent. When we chart our steps to the 5th United Nations Environment Assembly next year, ambition needs to remain high and should result in putting us on the path to an effective international framework to fight marine plastic pollution. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to thank Her Excellency Erna Solberg, the Prime Minister of Norway, and His Excellency Dean Jonas, the Minister of Social Transformation and the Blue Economy of Antigua and Barbuda, for their leadership and partnership in this endeavor. The initiative would not be possible without their support, dedication, and genuine commitment. Together with the member states who have joined us from all corners of the world, we are excited to be working closely to strengthen the global political momentum for a coordinated effort to find effective solutions to address marine plastic pollution. Let me once again thank all of you for joining us today and for your support for this important effort. Let us continue to celebrate our oceans. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister Shahid, for your personal commitment to addressing this issue. I remember from our discussions last year on steps we can take to address this issue. Your support for the idea of this group of friends has been unwavering, and your guidance invaluable as always. I thank you for your leadership in forming this group. It is now my great honor to introduce His Excellency Dean Jonas, Antigua and Barbuda's Minister of Social Transformation and Blue Economy. Previously, Minister Jonas served as Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Barbuda Affairs. Minister Jonas is a telecommunications engineer by training and has served in the House of Representatives since 2014. Antigua and Barbuda has been a champion of combating plastic pollution, other critical issues that are important for small island states. Please join me in welcoming Minister Jonas.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. It is my distinct pleasure to be here. I would like to recognize the Prime Minister of Norway, the Foreign Minister of the Maldives, Abdullah Shahid, and the President of the General Assembly. Excellencies and esteemed colleagues, happy World Oceans Day to you. It is my distinct pleasure to join you from beautiful St. John's, Antigua and Barbuda, and to welcome you to the launch of the Group of Friends to Combat Marine Plastic Pollution. I hope you are all very well, and thank you for joining us virtually in this meeting. Antigua and Barbuda is acutely aware that it is only through the sum of our collective efforts that we can begin to effectively combat marine plastic pollution. It is with this notion that we're pleased to co-chair this important grouping, along with Norway and the Maldives, as we collaborate globally to combat marine pollution in an effort to preserve our oceans for generations to come. Since introducing the world's first ban on single-use plastic bags in 2016, Antigua and Barbuda has been a pioneer in the fight against marine plastic pollution. Since then, we have also banned polystyrene products, as we know that these items inevitably end up in our beaches and washes into our oceans. We are all too familiar with the grave statistics that annually, approximately 8 million tons of plastic ends up in our oceans, poisoning fish, birds, and other sea creatures. That is the equivalent of one garbage truck of waste being emptied into the sea every single minute. Plastic waste in the form of microplastics has also entered the human food chain, and the consequences are not yet fully understood. We must take swift collective action to address this. And we intend that this group of friends will provide a sounding board to accelerate our efforts at the UN and in our individual states. Antigua and Barbuda has a strong history of effective collaboration with other co-chairs, Norway and the Maldives. These countries are leaders in the global fight to protect our oceans and are working arduously toward SG40 to conserve and sustainably use our oceans. We are ready to learn and share our drive and experience with other nations so that together we can take decisive action to address marine plastic pollution that threatens livelihoods, wildlife, and the survival of our oceans. As Minister responsible for the blue economy, it is my aim to ensure the sustainable economic development of the ocean to contribute to the livelihoods of Antiguans and Barbudans now and in the future. Combating plastic marine pollution is key to achieving this objective in Antigua and Barbuda, and we're here to play our part. We're glad to be among the company of so many member states who share these sentiments. Antigua and Barbuda will assume the chairmanship of the Alliance of Small Island States in January 2021. And we will ensure that this issue remains a priority on the government agenda. We are in a shifting tide in global affairs. The COVID-19 epidemic has upended so many aspects of our lives. We must take this time to envisage this new normal in a sustainable and healthy manner. And combating plastic pollution is one way we can apply pressure to do better in the future. This work will be one of the many sails in the ship as we steer towards the future we want. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Jonas, for your inspiring remarks and for both your governments and your personal efforts to raise the profile of this issue and to drive home the need for urgent action to address marine plastic pollution. This concludes the high-level remarks from the co-chairs of the group of friends. It's truly heartening to hear the seriousness with which you are approaching this issue and for your strong support for the work of the group of friends. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the COVID pandemic has forced us to reassess some of our initial ideas for the group, but we sure that we will engage on these issues with zeal in coming weeks. From capacity building programs with NYU School of Law to more events like this to build political momentum and raise public awareness. Expect to keep hearing from this group of friends. We will now hear from high-level representatives of the United Nations system. It is my great honor to welcome His Excellency Tijani Mohammed Bande, the President of General Assembly, to address our launch event. Excellency, you have the floor.
Your Excellency, Anna Solberg, Prime Minister of Norway, Your Excellency Abdullah Shahid, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Maldives, Your Excellency Din Jonas, Minister for Social Transformation and the Development Economy of Antigua and Barbuda, founding members of the Group of Friends, Excellencies. I thank the co-chairs of this new group of friends to combat marine plastic pollution, Norway, the Maldives, and Antigua and Barbuda, for organizing this virtual launch event. I commend the leadership of the founding members of the group of friends for committing to tackling marine plastic pollution. This challenge is the cornerstone of SDG 14, conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Therefore, it is critical that this is addressed in various multilateral fora, as well as the local, national, and regional levels. The threat posed by marine plastic pollution was illustrated at last year's Halibu Political Forum Declaration, which warned that current rates at which plastic litter is discharged into the ocean will have potentially disastrous consequences for humanity. Marine plastic pollution devastates marine diversity, affecting more than 800 marine and coastal species. Ingestion and entanglement threaten fish stocks, which are vital to global food security. Marine plastic pollution kills up to 1 million seabirds a year. Moreover, Excellencies, plastic systematically poisons, wounds, and infects our coral reefs. These underwater forests are home to more than 25% of all marine life. Coral reefs produce oxygen, provide food and livelihoods for hundreds of millions of people, and protect communities and coastlines from natural disaster. Today adds to the pressure for urgent action to stop this free flow of plastic waste, which threatens to overwhelm our oceans. Excellencies, we cannot afford to forget the symbiotic relationship between life underwater and life on land. Microplastics seep into our food supplies. Preliminary research findings suggest that these microplastics expose us to chemicals linked to reproductive harm, obesity, organ problems, and developmental delays in children. Furthermore, addressing plastic pollution will also require the dismantling of plastic islands. These plastic accumulations continuously shed microplastics into our oceans, ecosystems, and the deepest marine trenches on our planet. In the lead up to the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, we recognize that science and innovation will be required to address marine plastic pollution. Better sea mapping, ocean monitoring, and plastic tracking technologies and mechanisms will facilitate progress. We must also create new sustainable consumption and production patterns. I welcome encouraging actions taken by the recent Saudi and Japanese presidencies of the G20 in this regard. To achieve action at the scale which our oceans demand, we must require wide-ranging international cooperation and cross-sectoral partnership. We will need to harness the energy of civil society and the vitality of the youth to ensure broad multi-generational stakeholder partnerships. Excellencies, as we rebuild in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic at the outset of the decade of action and deliberate to implement the Sustainable Development Goals, we must ensure that recovery plans and policies are aligned with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. To this end, we must accelerate action and address marine plastic pollution. My predecessors at PGA 71, 72, and 73 all gave due attention to this matter. At the United Nations headquarters itself, the 73rd President mobilized action to institute successfully a ban on single-use plastics at the headquarters. This is extremely commendable. Today, I call on all actors to fully support the 2030 Greening the Blue Strategy for sustainability management in the United Nations system. Will be defined by our actions, and they must align both internally and externally as we work to improve the lives of the people we serve. To conclude, Excellencies, I commend your initiative in launching this group of friends to combat marine plastic pollution. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for being here today. We know the demands on your time and appreciate you making time for us. You're here at the very launch of our group of friends, and now you are officially a friend of group of friends. Allow me to introduce our next speaker, the Executive Director of the United Nations Environment Programme, Her Excellency Inger Anderson. She has spent her career focused on water, environmental, and sustainable development issues. And it is my pleasure to now recognize Her Excellency Inger Anderson.
Thank you very much indeed, Ambassador. It's a pleasure to have this opportunity. And let me start by thanking Her Excellency, the Prime Minister of Norway, Erna Solberg, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Abdullah Shahid, and Minister for Social Transformation and Blue Economy, His Excellency Dean Jonas, and of course, the President of the General Assembly, Tijani Muhammad Bande, for their presence today, and for everyone else. Excellencies, it is indeed a critical issue on which you are focused, and I would like to thank you for lifting this issue into New York. For us at the United Nations Environment Programme, this is obviously not a new issue. It is one on which we have worked for decades. And what is now needed, and my first message is essentially that a systemic shift is needed at this time because incremental change is not enough. We at UNEP, we are proud to be the host of a large number of multilateral agreements, and we are proud to be the hosts of the Regional Seas Program, and of course for the Global Program of Action for the Protection of the Marine Environment and Land-Based Sources of Pollution. In the last 25 years, we've worked with nations, 72 national programs of action are in place, 18 regional seas programs are in place, 9 land-based programs are in place that deal with pollution protocols, 4 UNEA resolutions in place. So there's a lot of global multilateral legislation and a lot of national regulations in place, but we need a step change. That step change needs to involve political leaders and decision makers, but also industry. My second point is that UNEP continues to play a very important role in chemicals and in waste. And as excellencies may be aware, the Basel Convention, to which most indeed are parties, in its COP in May of 2019, adopted and refined a new annex that specifically includes plastic waste in a legally binding framework. That's the only, and that framework becomes effective January 1, 2021. That is the only legally binding framework that exists to date. Now, this deals with trade in plastics. As we know, countries tend to export, or some countries have exported plastic waste to other, often poorer countries. This is now regulated by the Basel Convention. In addition, for example, the Mediterranean Convention, the Mediterranean Action Plan, with support from UNEP, has developed a legally binding regional action plan on marine litter. And similarly, the Nairobi Convention that deals with the seas, the coastal area on the east coast of Africa, has developed its regional action plan. So my point here is that there are a series of activities undergoing. My third point is that in 2012, UNEP, with support from member states, were proud to establish, together with member states, a global partnership on marine litter, the GPML, to which it is referred. And that is a multi-stakeholder platform that brings nation states, institutions, industry, finance, and communities. Today, it has over 200 members. It has 5 regional nodes, and it's deeply involved. And from one of the institutional, the business type members is a large electronics outfit, and they are helping us with artificial intelligence to understand better the sources and the origins of plastic, and have a multi-stakeholder digital platform for monitoring plastics, just as an example. The Caribbean node, since we have His Excellency the Minister here, has been similarly involved in capacity building and community involvement with significant amount of resources behind it. What may be of very much interest to this august group is that based on UNEA resolutions, an ad hoc open-ended expert working group on marine litter and microplastics was established to engage in and explore new ways of lifting the game to shift the needle. That expert working group, in which all member states are of course participating, as well as scientists, etc., have so far held 3 working meetings, one in Nairobi, one in Geneva, one in Bangkok. Unfortunately, none yet in New York, but nevertheless. There was supposed to have been another one, but in view of the COVID, this has had to be put on hold. The expert working group has done a lot of work and has essentially looked at the entirety of the spectrum and looked at options. Paper has been out for member state and other and stakeholder comments, and a number of comments have been received. It's also looked at the 18 international instruments and the 36 regional instruments that are in place that address, amongst others, marine litter and plastics. And of course, you would not be surprised to find that one of the findings of this review is that it's very fragmented, with these regional elements, with the global elements, and with gaps and fragmentation. In terms of the feedback that has been received, okay, so what would the next step be? Because different stakeholders have called for different actions. Essentially, the commentaries that have been received are received in 3 large blocks. One is the block that would recommend a development of a legally binding instrument on marine litter and microplastics. So that's one set of feedbacks that we have heard. Another deals with a combination of response options of different size and scope that could encompass regional, national, subnational, local governments, the private sector, etc. And a third is suggesting a more international architecture that includes response of voluntary or legally binding nature. So that is where the lay of the land in multilateral engagement is so far. And we will see when we host the next open-ended, ad hoc open-ended expert working group, where it will land. The idea is, Excellency, is that it will be the final decision, or the final discussion would happen at the United Nations Environment Assembly, which, as you know, is the highest organ of the United Nations that deals and addresses with environmental issues. And that is scheduled for February of 2021. So having New York and this group of new friends that I have now secured myself lean in on this topic is fantastic, and something that I am extremely grateful for. You will be able to deliver a clear New York involvement. You will lift into the capitals, similarly to how the specialists and the technical people have done so already. Your permanent representatives in Nairobi are deeply informed and involved already, and you will be able to input on the political level at New York. UNEA 5, as I mentioned, the United Nations Environment Assembly 5, will take review progress and take the relevant decisions for the future path. It is clear, however, and that would be my final word, that business as usual cannot continue. We have seen too many agreements made and not upheld. We now need to ensure that we can stop the plastic pollution that is causing such distress to marine life, to coastal communities, to coastal infrastructure, and indeed to human health. So with that, Excellency Ambassador Hussein, let me thank you very much for this opportunity, and let me thank the 3 friends for having lifted this issue in New York. My appreciation.
Thank you, Executive Director Anderson. It is clear that UNEP will be a critical partner for this group as we work together to advance action on marine plastic pollution. Our next speaker is His Excellency Peter Thompson. I first met him when he served as the permanent representative of Fiji here in New York. He has always been a devoted voice for small island states and a tireless champion of oceans issues. He currently serves as Secretary General Special Envoy for the Ocean, and as you can imagine, today being the World Oceans Day, it's an extremely busy day for him. But he is very excited about the work of our group and has recorded a video message for our launch. It is now my pleasure to introduce a video message from our dear friend, SG Special Envoy for the Ocean, Envoy Peter Thompson.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, greetings to everyone gathered with us here in cyberspace. Wherever and whatever your circumstances, I hope that you and your families are all safe and well. Congratulations on the formation of this UN group of friends to combat marine plastic pollution. Having been a member of various group of friends organizations over the years, I've seen some groups burn brightly and then disappear, and some that have endured as influencers and informers and conveners and forces for advancement. I trust your group will fall into the latter category, and believe this will be so because your cause is so fundamental to our maintaining a healthy marine and planetary ecosystem. Thank you for the opportunity of addressing you today. I've read the concept note prepared for your group's formation and commend its authors. Through it, you've made a worthy start to what is a very worthy cause. In the short time available to me in this message, I want to attempt to describe the extent of the crisis of the marine plastic pollution problem, as I presume that by your very presence, you're well aware of its extent. Let me just reaffirm that plastic has permeated the ocean from its surface to its deepest trenches, from our shorelines to the giant gyres of plastic garbage floating out there in our high seas. To stimulate your thoughts today, allow me to put the following 5 points before you. Firstly, marine plastic pollution remains a global crisis, but compared to its profuse media profile in 2018 and 2019, it's faded from public attention, partly because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but also due to plastic industry pushback and a burnout factor of media and public attention. We have to turn that around. Secondly, the COVID-19 pandemic has seen a resurgence of plastic, in spite of the fact that the coronavirus survives longer on hard surfaces like plastic than on soft surfaces like paper. The fight to replace single-use plastics has to face this challenge, for indeed plastic has received a big boost from the pandemic. But pandemics pass, while the climate crisis and the marine plastic pollution crisis will not abate unless we overcome their root causes. Thirdly, perhaps the least understood aspect of the marine plastic pollution crisis is that of microplastics. We know that everything from our stretchy apparel to the paint that covers our steel ends up as microplastic in the ocean. It now permeates the food chain, from the microfauna that ingest it up through the trophic levels to the humans that eat fish. We have not yet concluded sufficient scientific and medical studies to reach a consensus on what the effects of this mass ingestion of plastic is on the human health, and this too is work to be done. Fourthly, there are a great many organizations and people around the world in pursuit of solutions to the marine plastic pollution problem, and your concept paper mentions many of them. But I'd like to make special mention of GPAP, the Global Plastic Action Partnership, whose members include the likes of the Coca-Cola Company and Nestle, and whose expert advisors include organizations like the World Bank and UNEP. GPAP aims to show how businesses, communities, and governments can redesign the global take, make, dispose economy into a circular one, in which products and materials are redesigned, recovered, and reused to reduce environmental impacts. I'm sure GPAP will be very glad to learn of your group's formation at the United Nations. Finally, many of you participated last week in the Virtual Ocean Dialogues, organized by the Friends of Ocean Action and the World Economic Forum. One of its sessions, Stemming the Pollution Tide, was particularly relevant to your work. And for those of you who missed it, the session is available on the webcast recordings of the dialogues on the World Economic Forum's website, and I encourage you to view it. To conclude, please do regard me as a resource at your disposal, ever ready to support and ready to interact. In that regard, in our preparations for the next UN Ocean Conference, I've no doubt there will be plenty of opportunity for your group to be influential in the conference's consideration of marine plastic pollution. And if you so require, I'd be happy at any time to introduce you to leaders from the business, science, and governance communities working in this field. So I wish you, as you launch the UN group of Friends of Marine Plastic Pollution, all the best. And I send Happy World Ocean Day greetings to you all. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Special Envoy, for the ocean for your message, for your words of guidance and wisdom. We will surely be we will surely get in touch with GPAP. We look forward to working closely with you as well in the coming months to advance our shared priorities. That concludes our messages from the high-level representatives of the United Nations system. We look forward to working with the PGA, the Ocean Envoy, UNEP, and other parts of the UN system to combat marine plastic pollution. And we thank you for joining us here. For all of you out there watching online, thank you for sticking with us so far. It has been a pleasure to moderate the opening of this meeting, and I'd like to now turn over to my friend, Ambassador Mona Jewel, the permanent representative of Norway, to facilitate our ministerial dialogue. Mona, over to you.
The United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 14.1 is to prevent and significantly reduce marine pollution by 2025. But our ocean continues to be filled, not only with plastic, but with toxic chemicals, sewage and fertilizers, pollution that flows from activities on land.
Thank you so much, Teal, and thank you for handing the floor over to me. And happy World Ocean Day to all dear colleagues and friends. We are very glad to have two ministers here today who represent two island states and also are our co-chairs in this endeavor. We have heard from you describing the challenges and opportunity you see in a joint combat of marine plastic pollution. This provides the perfect setting for our discussion today. We have asked member states and stakeholders to send in their questions to you for this segment. Allow me then to start with you, Your Excellency Dean Jones. We know that many countries are already taking action on marine plastic, but this is a global problem that can only be solved through global action. What action do you want to see at the international level to support and amplify your national effort to address plastic?
Well, in most of the small island states in the Caribbean, of which Antigua and Barbuda is a part of, well, I know in Antigua, as you know, we've already banned plastics, single-use plastics, and styrofoam products. Now, that is one of the key things that I think could happen across the world. We have banned their use. We don't allow them to be imported in our country anymore. Now, it must be pointed out that in our states, we do not manufacture these products. A lot of the products are imported to the Caribbean from Europe and North America and other countries, and China perhaps too. Now, what I would like to see happening is that at the source is probably where I would like to see more actions being taken where these products are being manufactured. A lot of these plastics are used in packaging mainly, so they do not form a useful part of the product. But once they're shipped to our countries, they get discarded, and a lot of times they end up in our oceans and so on. What I would like to see is some mechanism being put in place to address this problem at the source. And I think that will go a long way towards solving this problem. So that is really my one of the key efforts that I'd like to see deployed.
Thank you so much, Excellency. As you know, we stand with you in this pursuit, and permit me also to thank you and your country for the work that we also did together last year on the Beat Plastic Pollution campaign in Antigua and Barbuda. So thank you so much for your efforts.
Thank you.
Allow me then to turn to your Excellency Abdullah Shahid. The group of friends is a diverse coalition reflecting countries big and small, developed and developing from all over the world. Why do you think such a wide spectrum of countries are eager and ready to engage on this issue? And what is your vision for the group of friends and action on marine plastic at the UN headquarters?
Thank you very much, Ambassador. It's a great question. The enthusiasm with which a group of friends have come together and the idea has been received is evidence of how well it has been taken. 46 founding members to start off is remarkable. I will let the founding members later speak to their specific reasons for joining this group and the initiative. But in my discussions with colleagues from around the world on this issue, I can think of two reasons for the eagerness for this group. First is marine plastic pollution is a challenge for any country with a coastline, large or small, high in GDP or low. Marine plastic pollution is an environmental, economic, social, and health problem, and frankly, an eyesore. For Maldives and other states which rely on our beaches and coastlines to drive our tourism industry and fisheries industry, urgent and decisive action to address this challenge is a necessity. Secondly, I think we have struggled as an international community to find an effective way to address the challenge of marine plastic. Citizens are demanding action. Governments are acting locally and nationally. And there is a strong appetite at the international level to find a way to work together to address this common challenge. And I think that is the second reason why we have such a huge number of countries coming together this morning. About the vision and action, I think first our goal here today as co-chairs is to demonstrate our firm political commitment to this issue and to work and the work of the group of friends. The message by the Prime Minister of Norway is very telling. The commitment that has come about is the kind of leadership we want. My dear friend from Antigua and Barbuda, the minister, his commitment is very strong. The message we heard from the president of the UNGA and the executive director of UNEP and others is what we want. The leadership that has been shown by the Special Envoy on Oceans of the Secretary General is a source of light for our work. I leave the actual work to my dear colleagues and friends in New York. And I have every trust that you will put no effort, no stone unturned to make sure that this process continues. Secondly, as you can see, a number of the founding members of our group are small countries that are eager to engage on this issue. But we don't have the capacity to engage with the depth that we would like to. This is a complex scientific, legal, policy, and technical issue. I see this group as an important space to build our capacity to engage on these issues in a mutually supportive manner. Thirdly, I'd like for this group to create space and look for ways to engage with those countries that are less convinced of the merits of working on this issue in a multilateral setting. It is through these shared space and spaces that we can try to find common ground. Being the World Oceans Day, I already feel the spirit of the ocean lift us. And I have every trust that the ocean has truly found good friends today. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Excellency. Norway is definitely eager to continue to work with you and all the other members of this group, and we are very much looking forward to taking up your challenge that you sent our way. We will certainly do whatever it takes here at the UN. I would also like to thank both of you, both Minister Jonas and Minister Shahid, for you to be here today at this meeting. It's really a great honor that you have taken time to be with us. I think if there is one lesson we have learned from the ongoing pandemic, is that global issues requires global action. So I am immensely glad to have had this opportunity to talk with you about what we can do together as a global community to solve this crisis. So thank you once again to both of you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam.
The issue of plastic in our ocean has inspired people all over the world to take action. And there is global agreement that the discharge of plastic into the ocean needs to stop.
On behalf of my team here at the Norwegian mission, I'm really very proud to co-chair the new group of friends together with the Maldives and Antigua and Barbuda. We started talking about this group a long time ago, but today we are finally launching it. We are so glad for the extremely positive response from so many member states to join us in these efforts to push for action to effectively address plastic pollution on a global level. I think I will take the time to list the countries, because I think it's very important for all of us to be aware of the broad scope of members that has signed up on this very important endeavor. So the following have so far confirmed membership of the group, and of course we are hoping for more to join. Argentina, Bangladesh, Belize, Cape Verde, Canada, Chile, Ecuador, the EU, Finland, Fiji, France, Germany, Grenada, Honduras, Iceland, India, Indonesia, Ireland, Japan, Kenya, Latvia, Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Monaco, Morocco, Mozambique, Nauru, Peru, Philippines, Portugal, Republic of Korea, Spain, Sri Lanka, Suriname, Sweden, Switzerland, the Seychelles, Timor-Leste, Turkey, Tuvalu, United Kingdom, Uruguay, and the World Wildlife Fund, and of course the three co-chairs, Antigua and Barbuda, the Maldives, and my own country, Norway. So we will now hear from our founding members. First, I have the pleasure to give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Carsten Membra, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade, the Republic of the Marshall Islands. You have the floor, sir.
Yahweh, and greetings from the Marshall Islands. We are very pleased to participate in the launch of the Group of Friends to Combat Marine Plastic Pollution. And we wish to thank Antigua and Barbuda, Maldives, and Norway for organizing this event on World Oceans Day. Coming from a region which supplies the majority of global tuna, the Marshall Islands is very concerned about marine pollution and the impacts of microplastic within the marine food chain. A primary challenge to curb marine pollution is addressing marine plastic. The Marshall Islands is already facing a solid waste and plastic problems. And therefore we have acted on our own by banning plastic bags and styrofoam. But the solution extends beyond our own shores. Our small Pacific Island nation cannot solve this without a concerted global effort. We know that some action has been taken at the multilateral level to address these issues. including through the IMO. But not only is more action is needed, it needs to be coordinated rather than existing only in sectors or silos. We are, however, optimistic that the group of friends can have an important role in cutting across multilateral fora. Excellencies, in the Marshall Islands, our larger territory is more than 90% oceans. So it is natural that small island developing states are working closely with other coastal nations to address this challenge. We therefore welcome the recent amendments to the Basel Convention, which now classifies most unsorted consumer plastic waste as hazardous for the purposes of transboundary movement. But we also note with concern that such provision may have impacts on SIDS. Here in the Pacific Islands, our small scales of economy makes commercial investment for recycling a challenge. We also need to ensure that small developing countries do not become a dumping ground for plastic waste. Excellencies, both political will and a cross-cutting approach are needed to achieve actions and results. We look forward to serving in this group as an important step forward. Thank you and kumordada.
Thank you so much, Mr. Minister. It's really a great pleasure to have you with us. The next speaker is the EU Commissioner for Environment, Ocean and Fisheries, Mr. Virginius Sinkinvikus, joining us also on a video from Brussels.
Dear friends, when the seas fill up with plastic, something is going wrong. It's a sign that we need to change, that we need to respect the boundaries of the planet. Marine pollution is not new, and there are many good initiatives to address the problem, but I still see important gaps. Some of the gaps are in the life cycle of plastics. We need more action upstream on prevention and reduction. In Europe, we have made this a priority, preventing marine litter from entering our seas. And with the Circular Economy Action Plan, we have a new policy framework to speed up that process. But no country or region can tackle the problem alone. It will take a dedicated international process. Regional needs and experiences are very varied, and everyone has something unique to offer. A global agreement on plastics could change many things and radically reduce what ends up in our seas. My hope is that UNEA5 will facilitate that outcome, opening the way to substantial change. The European Commission will do all it can to help. The decade of action on the SDGs is now underway. In the wake of COVID-19, this action is more urgent than ever. If we change our approach to plastics, we won't just be helping our seas, we'll be setting the pace for the bold steps we need to deliver on all the SDGs. Thank you.
I thank the EU Commissioner, and I now give the floor to the PR of Peru, Mr. Nestor Popiliosio. Next after him will be the PR of Bangladesh. But first, Nestor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador Mona. Peru is very glad to join Antigua and Barbuda, the Maldives, and Norway for this great initiative to increase awareness about the vital role our oceans play in our survival. The challenges we are facing today due to the pandemic and its terrible effects presents a global environmental sustainability commitment. We strongly believe that we need to prevent and significantly reduce marine pollution of all kinds, particularly that caused by land-based activities derived from plastic and microplastics and nutrient pollution. In this regard, strengthening international cooperation, knowledge, and information sharing on marine plastic pollution and political will are essential to solve this environmental catastrophe. We also need to significantly reduce waste generation through prevention, reduction, recycling, and reuse activities. Communities that depend heavily on marine food products face risks to their health and livelihoods. The biggest threat is to world's food security. In this respect, Peru is fully committed to achieving SDG 14. In 2018, Peru supported the Ocean Plastics Charter initiative because of its alignment with the 2030 agenda, and it is directly relevant to my country's endeavors to achieve sustainable and efficient consumption of plastics. Peru promotes that citizens adopt responsible consumption and recycling. We also adopted laws and regulations on single-use plastic and disposable containers, as well as other measures, such as the elaboration of a national roadmap for a circular economy in industry. Peru is also a member of the ad hoc group of experts on marine litter and microplastics under the framework of the United Nations Environment work that we already heard a few minutes ago. Finally, we must not forget that the exponential increase of plastic in the oceans is a big threat that affects our common future and abundance of marine biological diversity. Let us actively commit to protect them. Thank you.
Thank you, the PR of Peru. I now give the floor to the PR of Bangladesh, to our good friend Rabab. Next will be Louise Young, the PR of Belize. But first, Rabab.
Thank you very much, Mona, and I shall try to stick to my time. Honorable Ministers, PGA, Excellencies, distinguished panelists, good morning. I congratulate and thank the missions of Antigua and Barbuda, Maldives and Norway for forming this group of friends to combat marine plastic pollution. I'm very pleased to convey Bangladesh's full support and participation to this much needed initiative. The participation of the Honorable Prime Minister and ministers today speaks of the urgency and importance being attached to the work of this group, and I thank them for lending their support and for their strong statements. We are gathered here, Excellencies, because of our growing concern for marine plastic pollution. Oceans make up 70% of our world. They are our lifeline, but they are under increasing threat due to marine plastic pollution and human debris. And this threatens not only marine life, but it is a threat to entire humankind, given the serious impact this is having on environmental degradation and climate change. It is our collective responsibility to protect and save our oceans. We all recognize the inadequacy of the existing international legal regime for combating marine plastic pollution. We expect our group to play an important role in pushing for accelerated legal and practical actions, and also for initiating research and dissemination of information, ideas, and good practices. Excellencies, Bangladesh recognizes the urgent need for addressing marine plastic pollution, and it was from that conviction that at the 2017 Ocean Conference, we made a voluntary commitment to prevent production and significantly reduce the use of plastic shopping bags by 2025. We were one of the first countries to ban single-use plastic way back in 2002. We have enacted a law to promote the biodegradable jute as a substitute for plastic. We are taking other such measures, raising from mass public awareness programs to cleanup drives to incentivizing investment in recycling plants. But in the interest of time, I shall not elaborate upon them now, as there'll be more opportunities to do so later. So let me conclude, Madam Chair, by saying that we join this group on the hope that it would succeed in mobilizing the political will and support for global actions to combat plastic pollution. Binding commitments and matching resources and actions at every level is urgently required, and Bangladesh stands ready to contribute to the work of this group to make that happen. I thank you all.
I thank the PR of Bangladesh. And I now give the floor to the PR of Belize. The next speaker will be the PR of Cabo Verde. But Luis first.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair Mona. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Today is World Ocean Day, a day when we pay homage to the greatness of the natural treasure that is the ocean and the biodiversity that it cuddles deep within. The unprecedented challenges that we face today with the coronavirus, while occupying our immediate energy and focus, serve as the prism through which we have been forced to confront our vulnerabilities and acknowledge our deep and inalienable dependence on nature. When images of whales with their stomachs full of plastic, turtles caught in ghost nets, oceans saturated with micro pieces of plastic, ton loads of plastic debris on beaches and in waterways leading to the ocean. When these images emerge, the enormity and severity of the problem of marine pollution hits home. Powerful visuals of the damage being done and scientific evidence have captured the world's attention. And as everyone looks to the international community for a response, the formation of this group of friends could not be timelier. I would like to commend the permanent missions of Antigua and Barbuda, Maldives, and Norway for their leadership in making this initiative a reality, and as said by the executive director of UNEP, bringing this issue into the New York headquarters of the United Nations, where it can garner greater political support. The production of more than 300 million tons of new plastic every year continues to deplete natural resources and contributes to increasing greenhouse gas emissions. Each year, an additional 8 million tons of plastic end up in the world's oceans, where it is responsible for the deaths of up to 1 million seabirds and something like 100,000 sea mammals, marine turtles, and countless fish. Urgent actions are required to prevent further irreversible consequences, not only to marine life, but to human life as well. Belize is doing its part domestically, and in January 2020, we introduced a phase-in plan to ban single-use plastics, including both styrofoam and plastic products. But we cannot solve this problem alone. It requires international cooperation and collective efforts. And most importantly, it requires the cooperation of the private sector and civil society. Looking ahead to the UN Environmental Assembly 5 in February 2021, we hope that there is a strong resolution that leads to an effective international agreement. I would like to make a final point about the necessity of dealing with this issue here in New York. As chair of the Alliance of Small Island States, we know the difficulties for many small states to engage in international environmental issues. We do not have missions in Nairobi, and we do not have subject matter experts here in New York. The focus of this group of friends on building capacity in our missions here is essential, and we applaud the co-chairs for focusing on this in their concept note and will work wholeheartedly to participate. We look forward to working with all the friends in the upcoming months. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luis. I now give the floor to Jose, PR of Cabo Verde. The next will be Milenko, PR of Chile. But first, Jose, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador Mona. Greetings to all. I appreciate the opportunity to speak at this event on the auspicious date of the World Ocean Day. We all know the importance of the oceans as a regulating element for our physical ecosystem, as a primary source of food for more than 3 billion people, and a driver for many other resources and economic activities. We take stock of the scale of marine plastic pollution worldwide and the fact that it is endangering and causing irreversible damage to the ecosystem. We observe that response to marine plastic pollution followed the path of dispersion or fragmentation, which is not a bad thing in itself to address the diversity of situations and problems that arise. However, we welcome a global governance based on coordinated policies, instruments, and vectors of actions, and overall participation of public and private sectors necessary to provide an integrated and sustainable response to the three dimensions of the oceans across the SDGs: the economy by the sea, the health of the sea, including plastic pollution, and safety at sea. Cabo Verde is a small island state, an ocean state, indeed 200 times more sea than land, takes a large part of its livelihood from the sea, tourism, fishing, including 80% of drinking water from desalination, in addition to many other activities of its blue economy, incorporates measures directed at the areas of environmental and ocean sustainability and conservation, which aiming to reduce marine and maritime pollution, as well as to reduce the use of plastics. I conclude by saying that the pollution of marine plastic is a threat to all countries, which each of us must combat. Ending this threat requires our priority and constant attention. Cabo Verde wants to participate, to contribute to the global efforts and benefit from collective action and progress in this area, together with the group of friends to combat marine plastic pollution. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Jose. The next speaker will be the PR of Chile. Then it is the PR of Fiji on the list. And can I just please remind you very kindly that you try to stick to the 2-minute timeline for your intervention, because we have very many colleagues on the list. But Milenko, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mona. And dear colleagues and friends, Chile is very pleased to be part of the group of friends to combat marine plastic pollution. And we want to thank Antigua and Barbuda, Maldives and Norway for this much needed initiative that will create a cooperative framework to champion and raise the awareness on this problem. We appreciate the ideas expressed by the distinguished authorities that preceded me during the morning, whose remarks are very important to the group. Chile is fully committed with the initiative and agrees with the approach proposed by the organizers. We look forward to work with you all, and we are sure that the diversity of this group is a valuable asset when sharing experience and pushing forward the United Nations agenda. Let me express now a couple of ideas of the Chilean approach to the ocean process in general. We have a historical link with the Pacific Ocean, which is part of our identity and is key for a sustainable development. Chile has 42% of its exclusive economic zone under protection and is fully engaged with the international community in implementing a global ocean governance under the paramount umbrella of the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea. And we consider the links among ocean and climate change are a key factor, and that's why we propose a Blue COP during 2019. And consistent with this long-standing commitment with ocean matters, Chile already is deeply concerned with the global problem of plastic marine pollution because it affects biodiversity, ocean environment, tourism, fisheries, and maritime transport. And we are very close to present the Chilean national strategy for marine debris, whose line of action perfectly match with ideas proposed by the group. To conclude, dear colleague, plastic waste is one of the major environmental problems of today, so Chile reiterates its appreciation for the invitation to participate in the group that adds value to the work that we're doing here and maybe in a fragmented way until now. Thank you very much, Mona and colleagues, for giving me the floor today.
Thank you very much, Milenko. Next is the PR of Fiji, Satendra, and then I have the PR of France after Your Excellency Satendra. You have the floor.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and co-chairs. Thank you and congratulations for bringing us to this day. Fiji is honored to be a founding member of this group. We only have to look at the great Pacific plastic gyre, the plastic islands that are located between California and North Pacific, consisting of 100,000 tons of plastic and growing by 2,000 tons each month. For large ocean states like Fiji, plastic pollution not only affects our coastal communities who rely on marine resources for food, but plastics also impact larger scale fisheries. Plastics and microplastics in our oceans is an environmental concern. It is a food security challenge. It is a public health challenge, and it is now a fundamental socioeconomic threat to our economies and societies. Fiji announced its voluntary commitments at the first UN Ocean Conference in 2017. It banned single-use plastics last year. It has imposed heavy penalties, $500,000 fine and 7-year prison sentences for manufacture and distribution of single-use plastics. It went further to reduce to zero taxes on import and local manufacture of woven, bamboo, and other sustainable packaging material. These incentives have had significant positive outcome on families, especially women entrepreneurs, who are now engaged in production of sustainable bags in growing numbers. With the right incentives, we can reduce our dependency on plastic, generate jobs, improve livelihoods. We can also reduce gender inequality at the same time. Fiji is delighted to see a growing number of differentially abled persons beginning enterprises in production of sustainable packaging. But governments can only do so much. Industry has to play its part. We are delighted that industry is following suit. World famous Fiji Water, for example, is committed to transition its world famous Fiji Water to fully biodegradable packaging by 2022. This is an example of how we can maintain economic activity while combating plastic pollution. We can do both. In 2018, the government introduced the Environment and Climate Action Levy. This is essentially a tax on plastics and on high carbon activities. And this is also helping generate circular economies. These are steps in the right direction. We can only do so much at the national level. Combined efforts at this international level are needed to shift the needle. This group of friends is therefore a welcome effort in to create international solidarity and action. And I reiterate what the Prime Minister of Norway has so eloquently said: let's simply get down to business. Happy World Oceans Day, and congratulations, co-chairs, for bringing us to this day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Satendra. I now give the floor to the PR of France, and then the next on the speakers list is the PR of Grenada. But Nicolas, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mona. I would like to express my thanks to the co-chairs for taking the initiative to create this group of friends. It's really timely. France is very pleased to be among its founding members. The fight against marine plastic pollution is a global challenge that we must face together. According to the 2019 IPBES report on biodiversity, marine plastic pollution has increased tenfold since 1980, affecting the biodiversity, but also humans through the food chains. The increase in the use of plastic is exacerbated in a context of the COVID-19 pandemic. As you all know, French maritime space is the second largest in the world with more than 10 million square kilometers, and it is our duty to preserve it. We cannot allow the pollution of these plastics to be our legacy for future generations. France has made the fight against plastic pollution one of its main priorities, and last February, we adopted a law relating to the fight against waste and the circular economy with ambitious goals, aiming towards 100% of plastic recycled by 2025 and banning all single-use plastic by 2040. At the international level, France is actively involved through various agreements, initiatives, and working groups. For example, in the UNEP expert groups on plastics and microplastics, on possible options for the prevention of and international management of plastics and microplastic. The European Plastic Pact was launched in March and signed by France alongside with EU member states, NGOs and business. France believes that the long-term elimination of waste requires actions to prevent waste at source. And with this group of friends, we will have the possibility to better raise public awareness of the major problem of marine plastic pollution, to increase efforts towards SDG 14, and to ensure that the fight against marine plastic pollution will be part of the Recover Better. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Nicola. I now will give the floor to the PR of Grenada, followed by Jörundur, PR of Iceland. But first, Kesha, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mona. Excellencies, colleagues, all protocols observed. The global events of these last few weeks and months have challenged us all. Indeed, the combined trauma, particularly the socioeconomic devastation of COVID-19, including in our small islands, must not go unnoticed. And while 2020 is not the ocean super year exactly as we envisioned, today, as we celebrate World Oceans Day, we must recommit to continue our efforts and campaign. The government of Grenada, as a strong advocate for actionable policy on marine plastic pollution, is honored to be a founding member of this group of friends to combat marine plastic pollution, and congratulates Antigua and Barbuda, the Maldives and Norway on organizing today's launch and for their vision of collective mobilization within our diplomatic community to advance long overdue action on plastics. In the Northeastern Caribbean alone, there are 200,000 plastic pieces per square kilometer of our upper ocean, making plastics waste the most dominant form of litter found in our region's oceans. According to the World Bank, this poses a serious, direct, and immediate threat to what was pre-COVID-19 our region's $57 billion per annum coastal tourism industry. Working with many international partners, including the private sector, the government of Grenada has built a vision of the blue economy that considers circular approaches to managing plastics waste. As a result, in recent years, we have instituted several bans on the importation, use, and resale of styrofoam and certain single-use plastic items pursuant to Grenada's Non-Biodegradable Waste Control Act of 2018. We are also actioning initiatives that target behavioral change at the local level. In recognition of our efforts, in 2018, the World Bank issued a first-of-its-kind Blue Economy policy credit to incentivize progressive and urgent action. It is our hope that regional efforts like the St. John's Declaration, adopted by the CARICOM heads of government last year, evolves from declaration to universal legislation. And as my dear colleague from Belize, chair of the Alliance of Small Island States, mentioned in her intervention, capacity building plays a key role in our initiative. Colleagues, we are a long way from battling this scourge. There is no other time than now to rally the world to support the change we need for the future we want. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Kesha. I now give the floor to the PR of Iceland, followed by the PR of India. Jörundur, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mona, Ministers, Excellencies. First, I would like to thank Norway, the Maldives, and Antigua and Barbuda for taking the initiative to form a group of friends to combat marine plastic pollution. As an island nation highly dependent on healthy oceans and sustainable use of marine resources, we very much appreciate the focus you're bringing to the issue here in New York. Iceland currently holds the chairmanship of the Arctic Council, in which the marine environment is a top priority. We hope to agree on a regional action plan to reduce marine litter in the Arctic marine environment, including microplastics, during our chairmanship, and to host an international symposium on the threat of plastics to Arctic marine ecosystems in Iceland, as soon as the present situation related to COVID-19 improves. This work was leveraged by priorities during our presidency in the Nordic Council of Ministers last year. There we prioritized the ocean and blue growth in the north, and put emphasis, among other, on blue innovation and the threat of plastics to the marine environment. One of the main projects launched, Nordmar Plastics, focuses on developing a joint methodology for measuring the extent of plastic in the marine environment and aims at increasing awareness on the impact of plastics, for example, by creating educational material for children. These are some examples of regional initiatives that demonstrate the importance Iceland attaches to ocean affairs, which also remain high on our agenda at the United Nations. I thank the hosts again for this timely event. We look forward to a fruitful and productive cooperation with all of you. Thank you and happy World Oceans Day.
Thank you very much, Yurinder. I now then give the floor to the PR of India, Tiru, and next will be Geraldine, PR of Ireland. But Tiru, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador. My delegation would like to thank the distinguished leaders and missions of Norway, Maldives, and Antigua and Barbuda for taking this initiative to launch the Group of Friends to combat marine plastic pollution on the occasion of the World Ocean Day. We fully support this initiative as a founding member of the Group of Friends. At least 8 million tons of plastic end up in our oceans every year. Waste plastic makes up 80% of all marine debris, and the main source of marine plastic are land-based. Governments have to act now and join hands with industry and other relevant stakeholders to explore innovative processes and solutions and sustainable alternatives to reduce the production and excessive use of plastic. Apart from effective recycling policies, we need to adopt more fundamentally sustainable lifestyles which are based on minimal waste and maximum recovery. Innovative solutions like road making from plastics or converting waste to energy, etc., can contribute in combating this challenge. With a vast coastline of 7,500 kilometers, India faces an enormous challenge in cleaning up its seas. To incentivize domestic plastic recycling units, India has banned the import of plastic waste, particularly PET bottles, in 2015. We have made a voluntary commitment to eliminate single-use plastic by 2022. We have made source segregation of waste mandatory. India has built around 34,000 kilometers of roads by mixing bitumen with plastic. In 2018, India launched its own automated ocean pollution observing system. In 2019, India, along with Norway, launched an initiative to combat marine pollution. The initiative aims at supporting local governments and improving private sector investment. For example, a pilot project using plastic waste as fuel substitution for coal and cement production. As a member of the G20, we have supported the implementation framework for actions on marine plastic litter and the Osaka Blue Ocean Vision that aims to reduce marine plastic litter to zero by 2050, which is a major step for global action. To conclude, we need governments to make this a part of their policies and incentivize sustainable use of plastics to save our oceans and marine lives, even as we combat the scourge of COVID-19. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tiru. I now then give the floor to the PR of Ireland, my dear friend Geraldine, followed then by Lazarus from the PR of Kenya afterwards. But first, Geraldine, you have the floor.
Thank you, dear Mona, and thank you to all colleagues for this really excellent initiative. And Ireland is delighted to be a founding member in this important group. We've heard from so many speakers this morning that this is, on the one hand, a tragedy and a global crisis. What we do know is that right now it's desperately urgent and it's posing a clear and present danger to our oceans, to our sea life, but also to our people. So we fully agree with everyone this morning who said rhetoric should be behind us. This is the time for us to act and to act together and to act here in New York. So we're delighted to be part of that. I come from Ireland. We're a small island, big ocean state, and we see on a daily basis that this is a threat to our societies and our communities. We've heard very, very powerful statements, particularly from our small island developing state partners this morning, where we know that the impact on the socioeconomic front, on fisheries, on tourism, which are absolutely critical to the GDP of small island developing states, really threatened by this. So I think it's a doubly unconscionable position we find ourselves in, that we're not acting, particularly as a number of speakers have pointed out that solutions are actually close in this case. We know we need action, but we also know that we need policy change, and we need it now. And certainly, to use your phrase, Mona, being on the job, I can say that Ireland is on the job. And this spring, we were the first European Union country to ban the sale, manufacture, import and export of all products containing microplastics. And we will continue to work as part of the EU to develop a very robust approach regionally, but we're very much up to get on the job here with all of you here in New York, where we need a truly global solution as part of the UN system. With all areas of the sustainable blue economy, we know that beating plastic pollution puts our fishermen and fisherwomen in the frame. 70% of large plastic pollution is fishing related. We know that. Our fishing community in Ireland is already working very hard, and they actually have a Fishing for Litter project, which just since 2019, so in 1 year alone, has collected over 510 tons of marine plastic waste. And they've in that process also picked up 600 tons of old fishing nets, which are being recycled. So we know we're not alone, that our members of our communities are acting with us. And as we've heard this morning, there's a big community of countries who care about this. So we want to say that we are fully on board. I'll conclude with a short note of hope. You know that we champion the voice of youth here, and particularly in these tasks that will affect their futures. And a young Irishman, Fionn Ferreira, who's 18, has just won a major research award for inventing ways to extract microplastics from the oceans using the simple process of magnets. And he's now working to scale up that technology, which we see could ultimately be integrated into water treatment plants globally. So for me, it proves that on climate change, on oceans action, the youth that we look to are part of our solution. So thank you again to all colleagues. An excellent initiative. Delighted to be part of this.
Thank you very much, Ferdinand. I now then give the floor to the PR of Kenya, Lazarus, followed by the PR of Latvia. Lazarus, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mona. Excellencies, all protocols observed. Happy Oceans Day. I would also like to thank sincerely the distinguished panelists for sharing with us their insightful perspectives on the impact of pollution by plastics to our oceans, seas, and water resources. Kenya wishes to sincerely thank the leaders and the peers of Maldives, Antigua and Barbuda, and Norway. And Kenya, of course, is indeed honored to join the group of friends as a founding member, as this is an issue that is very close to our hearts, especially given that oceans, seas, marine resources support human well-being, underpin poverty eradication, ensure food security, employment, and help to counter the impacts of climate change. The sustainability of the ocean's resources is therefore our global priority, and it is imperative that we collectively deal with the existential threats that plastic pollution continues to pose to the health and crucial ecosystems of the oceans. It is difficult to overstate the magnitude of the challenges posed by plastic pollution, but we have all been told that a truckload of plastic is dumped into the ocean every single minute, and that by 2050, our oceans could contain more plastic than fish. This alarming statistic is exactly the reason we must take deliberate action now. I'm pleased to inform you that in order to prevent and significantly reduce marine pollution of all kinds, the government of Kenya in 2017 imposed a successful ban on all single-use plastics with the objective of reducing the impact of plastics in our waterways that contribute to marine debris. Results are positive, and to effectively address this seemingly growing threat of plastics, and to protect and conserve our water resources in a sustainable manner, there is a need for collective action and closer collaboration among all stakeholders, not only in the public sector, but also in the private sector. We highlighted these during the Sustainable Blue Economy Conference we co-hosted with Canada, with Japan, and others in 2018. We also look forward to co-hosting with Portugal the next UN Ocean Conference, where these issues will be emphasized. But finally, as I conclude, I wish to reiterate Kenya's commitment to this important group aimed at combating marine plastic pollution. We acknowledge and appreciate the great initiatives being spearheaded by our sister Inga and the UNEP team to deal with the detrimental effects of plastic pollution, and I encourage us to continue standing and working together to ensure that our oceans remain clean and healthy. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Lazarus. I now give the floor to Andres, PR of Latvia. He will be followed by Jane from the PR of Micronesia. Latvia and Andres, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mona. Thank you, colleagues. Latvia gladly joins the group of friends to combat marine plastic pollution as one of its founding members. We see this as an excellent platform to bring this crucial issue forward at the United Nations and globally. I sincerely thank Antigua and Barbuda, Norway, and the Maldives for this initiative and launching of the group of friends at this symbolic day, the World Ocean Day. The rapidly increasing levels of plastic litter and microplastics in the maritime environment has a multi-dimensional devastating impact, including on marine life, ecosystems, climate, our economies, and health. This increasingly serious and complex challenge requires an urgent and comprehensive response at all levels, in partnership with all stakeholders. Latvia has a relatively long coastline of 500 kilometers of the Baltic Sea, which is the shallowest sea in the world. The deepest point is only 180 meters. And therefore, the issue of marine pollution is very high on our national agenda. We have a lot of best practices to share, including of awareness raising and public involvement, beach littering, litter monitoring, and we actively working on scientific research on microplastics in maritime environment. At the regional level, plastic waste has emerged as one of the greatest threats to the Baltic Sea ecosystem, which calls for an immediate solution. In this regard, we strongly support the work of the Helsinki Commission. And last year, Latvia highlighted this issue of maritime pollution during the Council of the Baltic Sea State Presidency. We believe that the Baltic Sea region experience and measures taken could greatly contribute to the global discussions. Globally, our response should be holistic and based on a resource-efficient and circular economy approach to plastics. We need to build on existing efforts and address all stages of the life cycle of plastic. It's a key to promote sustainable production and consumption patterns, environmentally sound management of waste, and to base our response on a sound science and knowledge. We look forward to working together with co-chairs of this and all members of this group to promote efficient solutions to address the increasingly urgent plastic pollution challenges. These efforts will also be essential to recover better and from the COVID-19 crisis and to ensure a sustainable recovery. Thank you, Mona. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andres. I now give the floor to Jane, PR of Micronesia, followed by Isabel Pico, PR of Monaco. Jane, you have.
Thank you, Mona. Excellencies, colleagues, happy World Ocean Day and all protocol observed. My delegation is pleased to be part of the launch today and a member of a group of like-minded friends in New York to look at solutions to address the proliferation of marine plastics and the nexus between plastic production and climate change. I thank our three honorable co-chairs for their leadership and for convening us today. Marine plastic pollution is transboundary, and as such, the challenge is beyond one country's capacity to combat it. The platform provided by the group of friends to share best practices, harmonize global processes, and look at needed global frameworks and to provide support through partnership is most welcome. As a big ocean state, Micronesia depends on the ocean for its livelihood, movement of people and goods, its identity, tourism. Fisheries is an important sector and part of our diet, ensures food security, and contributes to our socio-economic development. So naturally, safeguarding and ensuring a healthy and vibrant ocean is critical. My country has passed a number of laws to address the importation, consumption, and waste management of single-use plastics and styrofoam. But enforcement remains a challenge. We recognize that continued public awareness is needed to instill a sense of ownership of the problem to find a sustainable local solution. More focus is needed to coordinate and break the silo approach by departments in our government, the civil society and private sector in our country. And the same needs to be done by our regional organizations to ensure a blue Pacific continent. A lot of good work is done in the Pacific region, and I want to share one example, the work of the parties to the Nauru Agreement in monitoring and registering fish aggregated devices. My country is also in the process of joining the IMO. As we continue our work in this decade of action and move towards the decade of ocean science for sustainable development, we will have the benefit of science, technology, innovation, data to support the urgency of this crisis. My country is committed, but we also recognize that SIDS, or big ocean states, should not be disproportionately burdened with this important task. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jane. I then give the floor to Isabel Pico, PR Monaco, next being Umar Hilala, PR of Morocco. But Isabel, you have the floor first.
Thank you, Mona, and happy World Ocean Days to all. You know, the Mediterranean Sea is an inclusive part of Monaco's identity, and today many school children in Monaco are taking class trips to understand better how the oceans is important for the whole planet. So I want to thank Antigua and Barbuda, the Maldives and Norway for convening that group of friends. And as a member of the group of friends on ocean, it was natural for Monaco to join this group as a founding member. So, you know, many of us have underlined how much the data is crystal clear about the dangers of plastic pollution. We know that by 2050, if we keep that trend, there will be more more plastic in the ocean than fish. We also know that, unfortunately, the recycling is not enough. 90% of plastic worldwide is never recycled. At the same time, the production is increasing. It is anticipated that it could be fourfold in the coming decades. We don't know the health threat because at the end of the day, we may all ingest microplastic while eating fish. And also the new technology to produce plastic is also contributing to the increase of CO2. And so it has an impact on climate change. So in Monaco, you know, like many of you colleagues, we are part of legal instruments, both at international and regional level. Last year, like Norway, Antigua and Barbuda, we supported the PGA of the 73rd session to bring the UN plasticides to ban single-use plastic from the United Nations. At the domestic level for many years, and we started in 2016 to ban single-use plastic bags. But as I said, it's not enough. And even if since this year, every single plastic item, single-use plastic item is banned in Monaco, we won't make a change unless we bring on board so business sector. So it has been said, we support a circular economy. We need a systemic change that has been called upon by UNEP, and we need to address the problem at the sources, like Peter Thompson has insisted upon. The business model must change, and we are confident that with the help of that group of friends in New York, we can support progress at the United Nations Environmental Assembly 5 and to get a step further. So thank you very much. I think we are all getting together, and it's a small part of the big change that we need to make for the planet, but it will be a fundamental one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isabel. I now give the floor to PR of Morocco. Umar, you will have the floor. The next will be Marlene Moses, PR Nauru. Umar, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, my dear Mona. Let me start by thanking the co-organizers for today's launch of the Group of Friends to Combat Marine Plastic Pollution. We commend Antigua and Barbuda, the Maldives and Norway's leadership in bringing this issue forward. Morocco is supportive of this important and timely conversation, as is pleased to be a co-founding member of this group of friends. More and more plastic finds its way into the ocean, and whether its source is land-based or from disposal at sea. The fact is that the numbers are staggering and have considerably risen over the years. Marine plastic pollution is a real issue. Its impacts are not only long-lasting, but can be irreversible, causing significant harm to the environment and severely impacting marine biodiversity. Not to forget that the long-term impacts are cross-sectoral. The success of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development depends largely on the success in climate and environmental agenda, and the polluting oceans is a central part of it. The coming into force of the Paris Agreement, the new pact with the nature and biodiversity, 2020 Sendai targets, the upcoming summit on biodiversity and the UN conference on ocean, among others, provide an opportunity to ramp up efforts and ensure the implementation of multilateral agreements in the field of environmental action. Activities on oceans needs to focus on synergies between environment, climate action, and creating new opportunities in sustainable blue economy. We also need to highlight the importance of creative and holistic means of implementation that can provide a push from commitments to actions. At the midpoint between COP25 and the upcoming COP26 that will take place in Glasgow, the review of SDG 13 on climate action and SDG 14 on oceans is fundamental. The harmful impact of the pervasive use and ineffective waste management of plastic and global health, food security, and ecosystem continues to rise concern. For present and future generations, Morocco launched various national initiatives and supported UN global campaign that focused on marine plastic pollution in particular. Since 2016, Morocco has implemented a ban on the production, import, sale, and distribution of plastic bags across the country in line with National Ecological Plan. As I conclude, I would like to stress that in order to succeed, we have to do an in-house effort, as well as awareness rising through continuous communication, campaign, and community engagement, bringing the UN closer to people and empowering all to take action on plastic, in particular single-use plastic. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Umar. I will now give the floor to Malene, PR of Nauru, followed by Francesco, a PR of Portugal. Malene, you have the floor.
Thank you, dear Mona. Excellencies,
Honorable Ministers, and distinguished colleagues, good morning. I would like to thank the esteemed co-chairs for launching this important initiative. Like other Pacific small island developing states, Nauru's isolation is often one of our biggest development challenges. We struggle to bring investment and new business enterprises into our countries, and in the current pandemic, we face a host of real on-the-ground challenges. But despite being thousands of miles away from major industrial centers, guess what has no problem finding its way to our shores? Pollution, plastic wastes, marine litter, and even IUU fishing. Nauru, along with the Pacific, has taken many strong regional measures to protect our ocean, but healthy marine ecosystems and the communities that rely on them will only be protected once all countries take this issue seriously. In this regard, Nauru is proud to be a founding member of this group and looks forward to working closely with all friends in combating this global crisis. Thank you and all the best, dear friends.
Thank you so much, Manel. I now give the floor to the PR of Portugal, Francisco. The next will be Kanushka, the PR of Sri Lanka. First, Francisco of Portugal.
Thank you very much, Mona. And first of all, thank you to Antigua and Barbuda, the Maldives and Norway for this very timely initiative. Marine pollution is one of the most pressing challenges, in particular the long-term discharges of marine plastic litter and microplastics into the ocean. More efforts are necessary, both on plastic debris and all the other sources of pollution. And at the same time, of course, we have to act comprehensively in implementing all the targets of SDG 14, as well on the reduction of carbon emissions worldwide. Some important steps were already taken, but we have to do more. And we need some more ambitious and transformative action through a holistic source-to-sea approach, tackling the origin and full cycle of marine plastic pollution and the crucial link between terrestrial, freshwater, coastal, and marine ecosystems. Because the fact is that nowadays we are drinking, we are eating, and we are even breathing plastics. And we need to do that together. Governments, consumers, private sector, including the financial sector, and research institutions. To conclude, two final notes. Want to say that we will, of course, make sure that the cooperation between this new group and the group of friends of the oceans and the seas, GOFOS, will be synergetic and mutually reinforcing. As you surely know, GOFOS was instrumental in pushing for a zero single-use plastics policy at the UN headquarters here in New York, and the members of GOFOS are issuing today a statement on the occasion of the World Ocean Day. The second and final note to say that we look forward to carrying over this discussion into the UN Ocean Conference that will be soon co-hosted in Lisbon by Kenya and Portugal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Francisco. I now give the floor to the PR of Sri Lanka, followed by the PR of Tuvalu. Kanushka, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mona. Excellencies, friends, all protocols observed. Sri Lanka is pleased to be among the founding members of the Group of Friends on Combating Marine Plastic Pollution. I wish to congratulate Norway, the Maldives, and Antigua and Barbuda for this timely initiative and look forward to contributing to the group's efforts in the future to achieve SDG 14. Oceans are an absolutely important natural resource for living beings, considering that they account for 70% of the source of oxygen we breathe and regulate Earth every second on a daily basis. Sadly, we witness marine plastic pollution being on an increasing trajectory with no sight of abatement. Sri Lanka, as an island nation, recognizes a special responsibility on its part to address this issue with vigor. Our seas are home to an abundant and rich marine life, with much of the population relying on the seas of their livelihoods. A significant segment of Sri Lanka's tourism industry is also dependent on our pristine beaches and sea life, which we share with many members here today. Marine plastic pollution is therefore a particular concern to Sri Lanka. Since plastics are produced from petrochemicals, we are disturbed by the findings that globally, as much as 8 million tons of its waste are dumped to our seas annually, which is predicted to increase in the future. If not adequately addressed, as was said, we could be facing a future of having more plastic than fish in our oceans. This could result in catastrophic consequences, including devastating impacts on our marine diversity and ecosystems while undermining coastal communities and harming human health. Therefore, the need for more concerted and coordinated efforts to combat marine plastic pollution at global, regional, and national levels has never been greater. Conscious of our obligations to protect the seas, Sri Lanka joined the UN Environment's Clean Seas campaign against marine litter and ocean pollution in 2017, which includes measures such as plastic bag bans, new marine reserves, and drives to increase recycling. At a national level, Sri Lanka implemented a ban on single-use plastic products from 1st January 2018, stepped up separation and recycling of waste, and a set of goals to making its ocean and coastline pollution-free by 2013. In addition, the government has joined hands with the private sector and civil society to clean up the coastal areas and create awareness among the population to reduce the use of plastic. Protecting our planet, particularly our seas, is our responsibility, but we cannot do it alone. Collective action is a key factor in combating marine plastic pollution. While relevant UN agencies have sought to take action on addressing this burning issue, we believe it is now imperative for the global body as a whole to adopt binding obligations to combat the abhorrent practice of marine plastic pollution. I believe that this group of friends launched on World Oceans Day will make an important contribution towards this end to accomplish the goal of plastic-free seas. Thank you, Mona.
Thank you so much, Kanura. I will now then give the floor to the PR of Tuvalu, followed by the PR of Eritrea. But Samuelu, do you have the floor?
Thank you, Mona. Excellencies and distinguished guests, and with all protocols observed, let me begin by thanking the co-founder, the co-chairs of the founding members, Maldives, Norway, and Antigua and Barbuda, for your vision and your perseverance in bringing about this important milestone. The ocean is a transboundary and dynamic resource that is threatened by the polluting activities undertaken by several sovereign states, often within their borders. Accordingly, increases in plastic production, especially of single-use items, in recent decades has seen plastic waste reach every part of our planet, from cities and forests to mountains and deep oceans trenches. The effects of this pollution reach into a number of marine development sectors in the Pacific, including fisheries, tourism, maritime transport, biodiversity conservation, and coastal management. With the SDGs, especially target 14.1 underpinning our vital work, Tuvalu aspires to a group that promotes strengthened and coordinated political momentum on the issue of marine plastic pollution. Much work is underway in this regard, including amendments to the Basel Convention to include plastics, changes to the UNEP open-ended expert group on marine litter and microplastics, regional declarations on plastics, and practical efforts, including through the South Pacific Regional Environment Program. At the national level, Tuvalu is taking steps to regulate plastic waste within our legal framework. For instance, in 2019, our government issued a waste management regulation which prohibits the importation, manufacture, sale, and distribution of single-use plastic items. Tuvalu recognizes the need for greater political and economic integration in our region to create an agreed framework for change. A variety of UN agencies and NGOs with marine mandates provides technical and policy assistance to Pacific Island countries and territories. This integration must be further enhanced with coordinated goals and duplications reduced. As a vulnerable small island developing states, we are acutely aware that the current productions and consumption models are unsustainable. We call on the group of friends to promote circular economy principles, where waste is designed out, products are made to last and be repaired, and resources are recovered rather than discarded. Such a major shift requires innovation, enhanced cooperation, better data aggregation, and coordination between the private sector, civil society, and local and national government. This unprecedented time in our history has shown us more than ever how critical the UN system is in coordinating and protecting sustainable development. We believe the group gathered today is up to this task and commit ourselves to combating marine plastic pollution alongside you all. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Samuelu. I will now then give the floor to the PR of Eritrea. Sophia, you will have the floor. The next will be the PR of Canada, Marc-André. But first of all, Sophia, Eritrea.
Thank you, Mona, and good morning, everybody. Your Excellencies, dear colleagues, happy Ocean Day to everybody. And thank you for this very timely initiative. Allow me first to thank everyone for the presentations and statements this morning. These concerns resonate with Eritrea as a coastal developing nation, painfully aware of the damages that can be caused. Eritrea is aware of the serious challenges marine litter and microplastics and the serious challenges to the sustainability of the marine environment and the floras and the faunas that are sheltered, and to the human beings and other creatures that are directly affected by this food chains by other means. Despite this, the attention given to marine litter and microplastics and the knowledge acquired is not enough, and we don't know enough, and we've not been doing enough. But in Eritrea, the state welcomed the United Nations Assembly's decision to establish the open-ended ad hoc expert group meeting and the mandate to enhance scientific awareness among experts, share experiences, and help governments design, adopt, and execute policies and guidelines, and participated in the meeting in Bangkok last year. We know that almost all marine litter and microplastics originate on land. And for that reason, Eritrea in 2002 went throughout the administrative zones and tried to educate the public on the hazards of plastic and the single-use plastics, and banned it in some regions from 2002. And in 2005, at the national level, we banned the use of plastics. Eritrea is today one of the first countries in Africa to have banned plastic use. I look forward to this great initiative and joining you and making a modest contribution to this group and your efforts in the future, and also learning on the many ways that Eritrea can incorporate some of the experiences and expertise that is out there. I thank you and happy World Oceans Day again.
Thank you so much, Sophia. I then give the floor to the PR of Canada, Marc-André.
So thank you. So distinguished ministers Mona and Till and Walton, thank you. Happy Ocean Day, everyone. It's so great to be all of us together on this day, and actually to launch this group of friends to combat marine plastic pollution. So as you know, Canada borders 3 oceans. This is why our motto is from sea to sea, and now we say from sea to sea to sea. We are committed to working with you and obviously other international partners to advance action on marine plastics, including through the G7, the G20, APEC, and various bodies under the United Nations. In 2018, you know, Canada spearheaded the Oceans Plastics Charter under our G7 presidency. And at the time, I remember some of the islands joined the G7, and Norway as well. for this initiative. And the Charter takes a comprehensive life cycle approach to addressing marine plastic pollution, including ambitious non-binding targets, and supports national policy development. To date, 26 governments and 69 businesses and organizations have endorsed the Oceans Plastic Charter, and we invite your governments that are present and represented here to endorse the Charter as well. To fulfill its Charter objectives in 2018, Canada committed $100 million to address plastic waste in developing countries, spark innovation to beat plastic pollution, and support innovative private-public partnerships. And this funding is being delivered now multilaterally through key international partners such as the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, and the Incubator Network. Using the Charter as its basis, Canada launched the Canada-wide strategy on zero plastic waste in 2019, just in June 2019. And we're putting the necessary tools and system in place for foundational change, including taking strong action on harmful single-use plastic, establishing consistent programs to make companies responsible for the plastic products that they make and sell, developing product standards to stimulate secondary markets and increase value recovery, and improving infrastructure to better manage our materials, amongst others. So we want to underscore the importance of the complementarity of international efforts to avoid duplicative action and achieve results on reducing marine plastic pollution. And so we welcome the opportunity to work with all of you towards it. And as we have with the actually the Blue Economy Conference with Kenya and Japan. So finally, Canada recognizes the importance of balancing the environmental protection and clean growth with the economic importance of plastic and its role in protecting human health, in particular during this COVID-19 pandemic period. So it's important that we continue our work to increase the recovery of plastics and retain its economic value and reduce the amounts that we send to landfill. So it's critical that we build circular economies where used plastics have value, are not where used plastics have value are not littered, but rather reused, repaired, or recycled. So we believe that conserving these resources will not only protect the health of our oceans, but also reduce our emissions of greenhouse gases. So all in all, in Canada, you have a very happy partner, and we're very happy to join you. And we congratulate you on this very successful launch. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marc-Andre. Our next speaker is Mr. Ismail Aznar, Director General for Environment, Quality and Assessment of Spain. He will be followed by DPR and Sakira of the Philippines. Mr. Aznar, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellencies, Spanish poets have written about the sea across centuries. Federico García Lorca did so almost 100 years ago. El mar sonríe a lo lejos, dientes de espuma, labios de cielo. Spain cannot conceive its culture, its history, its economy, or its rich biodiversity without the sea. Probably the sea does not smile anymore, as García Lorca said in his poem, and we cannot stay apathetic while our oceans languish, affected by overexploitation and pollution, affecting our economies, our marine ecosystems, and our health. That is why we strongly welcome the initiative for a group of friends to combat marine plastic pollution, and we are honored of being one of its founding members. However, we have to move from nice 2-minute speeches to real action, both at global and at national level. The ongoing efforts to combat marine litter are significant worldwide, but are fragmented, sometimes duplicating work and do suffer from significant gaps. We need a global response that gives new impetus and cohesion to international community's response to this challenge. We need a meaningful result to be achieved in the United Nations Environmental Assembly in 2021. Spain is firmly acting at national level. Last week, the Spanish government discussed the new legislation on waste, which for the first time tackles single-use plastic by banning several items and creating a tax on plastic packaging. The government also adopted the Spanish strategy on circular economy to 2030, which sets the basis to improve circularity and reduce our waste. Spain is also working to protect its marine ecosystems through marine strategies and is strongly involved in the work of the regional seas conventions. We will not miss any initiative to strengthen our response to marine pollution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I now then give the floor to Sachet of the Philippines, Kira. We have quite a few left on our speakers list. So again, I would like to encourage you to stick to the 2 minutes, because we would like to hear from all of you. After Kira has spoken, we have the DPR of Ecuador on the list. Kira.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Good morning, Excellencies and colleagues. I thank Norway, Maldives, and Antigua and Barbuda for this initiative of the Group of Friends. The Philippines is honored to be a founding member. Today we mark World Oceans Day, but in the Philippines, June is a month of the ocean. This annual month-long commemoration expresses how much we, an archipelagic nation, value our oceans. We therefore work hard to protect them. But due to, among others, a sachet economy, where products are sold in single-use plastic sachets, the Philippines has unfortunately become one of the major contributors to marine plastic pollution. Addressing this means finding a balance between economic growth and sustainable development. Marine plastic pollution is an urgent global problem. However, the current existing legal framework to address the problem remains fragmented and inadequate. The solution and framework cannot be merely national or regional, but must encompass a global reach. After all, as expressed in the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the problems of ocean space are closely interrelated and need to be considered as a whole. In other words, we know that the state of our oceans affects your oceans. This is why the Philippines continues to espouse the commencement of negotiations on a new treaty to combat marine plastic pollution, consistent with our position at the 4th United Nations Environment Assembly. We support the adoption of a negotiations mandate at UNEA 5 in 2021. This binding global agreement must commit the governments to address marine plastic pollution and set the global direction for action that will create systematic and lasting solutions. For this treaty to be effective, it needs to have a system for measurement and monitoring progress, a financial mechanism, and an intergovernmental scientific body. It must encourage increased voluntary action, create momentum, and provide a platform for scaling up existing initiatives. It would facilitate the establishment and implementation of regional and national action plans to prevent, reduce litter and microplastics in the marine environment. We therefore welcome the comprehensive approach of this group of friends. While it is not a negotiating group, we hope that it can promote parallel action and heightened engagement by UN New York with the UN Environment Assembly and provide political impetus on marine plastic pollution. The Philippines will work in solidarity with the group to elevate discussions towards agreed and targeted global actions. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Kira. I now give the floor to the DPR of Ecuador, followed by the DPR of Indonesia. DPR Ecuador, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our protocols observed. Ecuador thanks the organizers, Antigua and Barbuda, Norway, and the Maldives for this time initiative, especially today, World Ocean Day. Ecuador is glad to be part of the founding members of the group to combat marine plastic pollution and fully subscribe to the concern expressed by the previous speakers regarding the damaging impact of plastic pollution and microplastics on the environment, the waterways, and ultimately on our life and future. There is also another challenge brought by the pandemic of COVID-19, which not only had driven the world into a deep sanitary, social, and economic crisis, but is affecting greatly the environment. It is known that the plastic pollution that ends in the ocean is in great measure the result of mismanagement disposal of land-based sources at the global level. The massive and intensive use of medical protection equipment such as gowns, gloves, and masks during the peak of the pandemic in the hospitals and in the first-line services, in addition to the use of this equipment for the general public in the scene of a new normality, threatens greatly the oceans. The delivery and pick-up methods that have been put into place for the lockdown on both cities have increased also the use of plastic products such as wrapping, containers, and bags. In this new normality, single-use plastics have found a way to stay longer among us. New and pressing questions arise from the perspective of COVID-19 pandemic and the plastic pollution. For instance, how to dispose safely of the medical protection equipment, or in a more general manner, how to stop higher consumption of plastic when a lot of activities are on pause. The impact of plastic pollution has been deeply perceived on fragile ecosystems such as the Ecuadorian Galapagos Island, declared by UNESCO as World Natural Heritage. The islands are the home of 2017 unique species among reptiles, mammals, and birds. The Galapagos community has witnessed the impact of plastic on their animals and in the ecosystem. In 2014, plastic bags were banned in Galapagos. The Ministry of Environment has been implementing remediation activities of marine ecosystems by removing solid waste for the sea and the beaches. In addition, the national and local government conduct awareness campaigns through recreational activities, workshops, talks, and communication, and promotes cleaner production processes and support more responsible consumption patterns. However, these actions seem insufficient since overwhelming amount of plastic waste arrive every day from other regions of the world, North and South America, and Asia. This is a transnational problem that has been aggravated during the pandemic. We believe that the response to the plastic pollution in the ocean should be addressed both in the local and in the national field. Actually, this problem is present in 18 international and 30 simulation instruments, the United Nations for the Marine Control, the economic governance strategies and approaches provide a fragmented approach that is not adequately addressed by plastic litter, and a new global international effort is required. Thus, we applaud this outstanding initiative. Ecuador is honored to be a we believe that we will continue adding numbers and together we will to address this problem in a more integrated manner in the near future. We look forward to engage in a constructive work in the future. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Helena. I'm sorry there are some disturbances on the net here, but we could hear you. So thank you very much, Helena. I now give the floor to the DPR Indonesia. Mohammed, you will have the floor, followed by Hoshino, DPR Japan.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. At the outside, allow me to thank Antigua and Barbuda, Maldives, and Norway for hosting this important event. And I wish to congratulate all of us for the launching of the Group of Friends to Combat Marine Plastic Pollution. We have learned many valuable insights and inspiring calls made by the esteemed Prime Minister, ministers, as well as high-level representatives of the UN regarding the development and the commitment to address the issue of marine plastic pollution. Therefore, I am fervently confident that the Group of Friends will tremendously contribute in advancing our common efforts in combating marine plastic pollution. For our part, Indonesia has put forward some strategies on this matter. We have set a national target to cut marine plastic debris by 70% within the next 5 years until 2025. To achieve this goal, we have devoted to reduce or substitute plastic usage to prevent abundant consumption of plastic per year. We also committed to double the current recycling capacity of plastic waste per year. And last but not least, we will build and expand safe waste disposal facilities to manage additional plastic waste. To conclude, we are honored to be part of the Group of Friends to combat marine plastic pollution, and please be assured of Indonesia's commitment to advance this important issue. Thank you, Madam Ambassador.
Thank you, Mohammed. I now give the floor to the DPR of Japan, who will be followed by the DPR of the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Ambassador Mona, for the floor, and to Antigua Barbuda, Maldives, and Norway. Thank you for your leadership in establishing this Friends group. Japan is Japan is pleased to be present at the creation of this group of friends as a founding member. And the marine pollution caused by marine plastic litter is expanding globally. It is alarming to hear that microplastics were observed even in the Arctic and the Antarctic oceans, well beyond our shores and the surrounding waters. It is imperative, therefore, for the international community to make concerted efforts, even as we deal with this COVID-19 pandemic. And I expect this group of friends will take a prominent role to play. And as a founding member, Japan is ready to work closely with you to build a better and to create a resilient and inclusive society where environmental issues, including marine plastic litter, are taken into account more than ever. This is a prerequisite, we believe, to ensure human security for all while leaving no one behind, including the most vulnerable people. In solving the issues of marine plastic litter, it is important to promote an inclusive life cycle approach, which include reducing the amount of mismanaged plastic through sound waste management and innovative solutions. As you know, as you recall, the G20 summit last year, G20 leaders under Japan's presidency shared the Osaka Blue Ocean Vision, which aims to reduce additional pollution by marine plastic to zero by 2050 and agree on a concrete implementation framework for achieving this vision. Now, this vision is shared by more than 80 countries. Amid the COVID-19 pandemic, Japan remains committed to achieving this vision. Finally, in particular, the United Nations Ocean Conference introduced by the PRs of Portugal and Kenya this morning will be a unique opportunity to highlighting this issue of marine plastic litter. We believe that it is necessary to incorporate the elements of the Osaka Blue Ocean Vision into the outcome document so that the international community can tackle marine plastic litter together. Likewise, as was the case last year, the issue of marine plastic litter should be mentioned in the ministerial declaration of the 2020 High-Level Political Forum this July. So I look forward to working closely with you as a member of this group of friends. Thank you very much for the floor and a happy World Ocean Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to the DPR of the Republic of Korea, followed by the DPR of Honduras.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the outset, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the co-chairs from Antigua Barbuda, Norway, and Maldives, as well as other founding members for taking the initiative to launch this group of friends. Madam Chair, SDG 14.1 aims to prevent and substantially reduce marine pollution of all kinds, and my government has been undertaking various measures to significantly reduce marine plastic litters. By joining the group of friends today, we are ready to build on and expand our ongoing efforts. Since we are facing the pollution without borders, the international community should remain responsible and reactive. Research shows that the plastic pollution may impact biodiversity, ecosystem services, food security, and human health. At the domestic level, last year, the Korean government introduced an updated legislation with the aim of reducing marine plastic by more than half before 2030 and implement a comprehensive management policy in line with the legislation. Furthermore, we have been expanding our effort to collect marine debris and have been increasing budget for managing fishing gears and buoys, which are the main sources of plastic litters floating around Korea. At the regional level, the APEC roadmap on marine debris, which was jointly proposed by Korea and Chile, was adopted last year. In addition, Korea plans to provide development assistance to help manufacturing cleanup vessels in Southeast Asia, and in cooperation with UNEP, my government will co-host the 7th International Marine Debris Conference in 2022 in Busan. In closing, we look forward to sharing and discussing mutually beneficial policies in this group of friends, thereby reaching effective solutions to reduce marine plastic litters. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I then give the floor to the DPR of Honduras, followed by the DPR of Turkey.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Jewel. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Honduras is honored to participate as a founding member in the launch of the Group of Friends to Combat Marine Plastic Pollution and celebrate this special event, World Ocean Day. We would like to thank Norway, the Maldives, and Antigua and Barbuda for convening this event and for all of their efforts in leading this group. Tackling the complex challenge and highlighting the problem of land-based source of marine plastic pollution with its direct impact on the conservation and sustainable use of the ocean and the connection with the effects of extreme weather is a priority for my country. We can only solve marine plastic pollution together through the collaboration between states and the support of the academia, private sector, and civil society. We cannot achieve this alone. This complex challenge requires a comprehensive response that considers the entire life cycle of plastics at all levels and increases cooperation for capacity building and transfer of marine technology in developing states. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Honduras is a party to the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, and the Convention for the Protection and Development of the Marine Environment of the wider Caribbean region, Cartagena Convention. In that sense, my country is committed to creating integrated and inclusive approaches to find solutions to address marine plastic pollution. To conclude, Honduras pledges its efforts to develop a collective strategy to combat marine plastic pollution at the United Nations headquarters and raise awareness of this adaptive challenge. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I then give the floor to the DPR of Turkey, followed by the DPR of Sweden.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. We thank Norway, Maldives, and Antigua Barbuda for their leadership on this crucial subject matter. Turkey is proud and delighted to be part of the group. We hope to contribute to the global efforts and discussions to raise more and more awareness on marine plastic pollution and share our views on solutions and good practices. Surrounded by great seas and long coastlines, Turkey attaches utmost importance to mitigating the marine plastic pollution. Let me very briefly highlight that overall waste management is at the heart of Turkey's efforts to tackle environmental degradation, as well as to increase recycling to mitigate loss of resources. With this understanding, the Zero Waste Project was initiated in 2017 under the auspices of Her Excellency First Lady Madame Emine Erdogan. Amongst other benefits, the initiative led to the adoption of a national regulation and 78% reduction in use of single-use of plastic bags nationwide. The project also contributed significantly to the marine litter studies in Turkey and played an instrumental role in Turkey's efforts to transition to circular economy. In order to prevent marine plastic pollution, in particular, we focus on preventing formation of marine litter by taking precautions at the source. Turkey launched an integrated approach to the disposal of existing marine litter, and there is an increased focus on training and awareness-raising campaigns. Another solid action we have taken to help tackle marine plastic pollution was to complement the Zero Waste Project with Blue Movement campaign. Launched in June 2019 under the auspices of Her Excellency First Lady Madame Erdogan, the campaign provided a framework for the government agencies, private sector, and non-governmental organizations to work together, not just to raise awareness, but also take action in forms of training and actual reduction of marine pollution. In our view, tackling marine plastic pollution is highly linked with sustainable use of seas and marine resources. To contribute to regional efforts to that end, as the only country that is party to both the Bucharest Convention on the protection of Black Sea against pollution and the Barcelona Convention for the protection of marine environment and coastal region of the Mediterranean, we have facilitated increased synergy between the secretariats of the respective conventions. Clearly, tackling marine plastic is yet another daunting task that requires robust international cooperation. We have no doubt that this group will provide valuable contributions to that end. I will conclude by congratulating the co-chairs for the launch of this group. Turkey is committed to work together with the group and other partners to tackle this global challenge through action-oriented and innovative solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to the DPR of Sweden, followed by the DPR of Switzerland.
Thank you, Excellencies, dear colleagues, and a happy World Oceans Day. I would like to thank Antigua and Barbuda, the Maldives and Norway for this timely initiative. Sweden is proud to be among the founding members of this group of friends to combat marine plastic pollution. Its work will be critical in advancing a common understanding between different stakeholders and finding concrete solutions. Plastic pollution is a global crisis. We know that its effects on marine ecosystems are severe. We have seen the alarming reports about millions of marine species at risk of entanglement, mutilation, and even death. Plastics are everywhere. Even the sea breeze that we breathe now carry very small particles of plastics. With the current trajectory, by mid-century, there will be more plastics than fish in the oceans. And as a global community, we need to assume responsibility and take urgently needed action. The well-being of oceans is a priority for Sweden. For years, we have taken a comprehensive source-to-sea approach. We play an active role in the UNEP open-ended expert group on marine litter and microplastics. On April 10 this year, Nordic environment ministers adopted a declaration calling for a global agreement to combat marine plastic litter and microplastics. And recently, the European Union published an action plan on the circular economy with a strong marine plastics component. We fully support the objectives of this group. We urgently need to identify effective solutions and scale up concrete measures at all levels, locally, nationally, regionally, and globally. In particular, we would welcome if this group can bring us together in advancing a new global agreement on marine plastics. UNEA 5 next year presents an important opportunity for the global community to establish a path towards such an agreement. In closing, we look forward with enthusiasm to working together under the leadership of Antigua and Barbuda, the Maldives and Norway to combat marine plastic litter and microplastics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Magnus. I now give the floor to the DPR of Switzerland, Dominic, followed by the ECOSOC ambassador for the UK. Dominic first.
Thank you very much, Mona. Dear colleagues, Excellencies, Switzerland fully recognizes the global environmental, social, and economic importance of oceans. Even if we are a landlocked country, we are not mind-locked in our attitude. We welcome the constitution of the Group of Friends to combat marine plastic pollution. We congratulate Antigua and Barbuda, the Maldives, and Norway for chairing it and stand ready to work towards an ambitious global response. Gaps in addressing plastic pollution exist in various aspects, including knowledge, policy, technology, financing, and awareness. UNEP and the Basel Convention remind us that plastic accounts for around 10% of the total waste generated and constitutes approximately 90% of all trash floating on the ocean surface. It is nearly impossible to clean the seas from plastic waste and microplastics. Therefore, marine plastic pollution needs to be tackled at the source, hence requires a full life cycle approach and governance issues to be addressed. Numerous national and regional initiatives have been implemented around the world, but gaps in policy remain. The existing legal framework covering marine plastic pollution is fragmented, ineffective, and is not sufficiently coordinated. A more coherent and targeted global response is needed. We want to avoid duplication of processes, enhance coordination, and improve governance. Switzerland judges the work under the UNEP and the UN Environment Assembly, UNEA, as the most promising path forward. We call on all member states of this group of friends. Let us support the ongoing work under UNEA by actively mobilizing our engagement for this process towards an ambitious outcome at the upcoming Assembly in February 2021. We also encourage members to serve as ambassadors to countries currently not active in the process under the Assembly. Let us reach out to member states, in particularly those that are most vulnerable to marine plastic pollution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dominique. I now give the floor to the ECOSOC Ambassador of the UK. Tom, you will have the floor, followed by Minister Council of Germany.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and good morning, everybody. Lovely to see you all, and happy World Ocean Day. It's great to see so many of us at the meeting this morning. And I just want to start by saying how delighted I am and how delighted the UK government is as well to become a founding member of such an important group of friends on combating marine plastic pollution. And I think the number of us here today reinforces the fact that marine pollution is a truly international and transboundary problem, and that we need to work together through groups like this one to forge the way forward. And that's why in 2018, the UK launched the Commonwealth Clean Ocean Alliance together with Vanuatu, which now has 34 members, over half the Commonwealth, who have pledged to take action on plastic pollution. And I'd also like, I think, to pay particular tribute to the founders of this group for their work already on these issues, and to say how fascinating it's actually been to hear the breadth of other experience that is taking place in other countries that have joined this group and by other governments who've joined this group. So I hope that we can use this group as an opportunity for us all to share lessons learned and best practice between us, so that we can collectively demonstrate both what is achievable, but more importantly, why urgent action is so critical. And this is a matter which really is of great concern to the UK government. For our part, we have published a resources and waste strategy that sets out how we will preserve our stock of material resources by minimizing waste, promoting resource efficiency, and moving towards a less wasteful, more circular economy where we reuse, repair, and recycle. We have also banned microbeads in rinse-off personal care products, placed a levy on plastic bags on the high street, and will introduce a ban on the supply of plastic straws, drink stirrers, and other single-use plastics in October. And the UK government is also committed to leading on marine conservation. As custodians of the 5th largest marine estate globally, we are on track to have more than half of all UK waters protected through our Blue Belt programme. But we know that we cannot do it alone, which is why we are calling on others to join the Global Ocean Alliance for a global target to protect at least 30% of our oceans by 2030. And we are currently building a new fund, the Blue Planet Fund, to help restore and protect ocean ecosystems around the world. So thank you very much. As I say, we are really delighted to be a founding member, and we look forward to working with all of you on such a critical issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I then give the floor to the Minister Council of Germany, followed by a councillor from Finland, and the last speaker will then be the Director General of the WWF. And I have to urge you to be as brief as possible because you're running far beyond time. But first of all, to Germany.
Thank you, Ambassador. We commend Antigua and Barbuda, the Maldives, and Norway for your initiative to create the group of friends to combat marine plastic pollution today here in New York. This group will provide a valuable forum to push for action, to exchange experiences, and to discuss the way forward, including towards a new global agreement to combat marine litter and microplastics. We should take stock of the existing initiatives and complement them on a political level as best we can. The fight against marine litter is one of the most pressing political tasks of our time. It can be seen as a very palpable manifestation of negative human influence on the environment. Marine litter is a truly global issue and can only be tackled with joint efforts. We need to close current gaps in our international response a binding international agreement on plastic waste would, in Germany's view, help in addressing this. Germany is committed to contributing to building up momentum for reaching an ambitious global agreement with view to UNEA 5. It is important that the joint preparations for this assembly will be conducted in an inclusive manner as a global process in which countries from all parts of the world should be actively involved. It is very encouraging to see today that so many countries share a common interest in strengthening international cooperation and in working together to mobilize support for more collective action, as well as a new global agreement on marine plastic and microplastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to Finland. Is the representative of Finland with us? If not, I think we go then straight to Mr. Marco Labertini, Director General of WWF. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and congratulations to the co-chairs and all the friends for this coalition. It's so heartening for a global civil society organization of WWF to have heard so many passionate words of commitment towards the ocean and towards curbing plastic pollution. We know the ocean is in crisis. We know this is serious, it's urgent, it's dangerous, because the crisis of the ocean is a crisis for humanity. And we also know that the crisis is driven entirely by our own activities. And so the solution is in our hands, and there's no one else to turn to but ourselves. We know that the public, people around the world are demanding this. There is great growing concern. And so it's now all the conditions coming together for a perfect storm, political storm, and really take action. We want to add to a sense of urgency, therefore a sense of responsibility and accountability on behalf of everyone. We want to add, finally, our support to this exciting vision for a global framework, a global agreement that will set a clear global goal and a number of targets around reduction, collection, recycling, alternatives that will really help create a level playing field for every single citizen, business, and government to contribute towards. We can do it. We've done it on ozone depleting gases. We're beginning to do it on climate change. We should do it on plastic as well. So thank you very much for this opportunity. WWF is committed to be part of the friends and to our best ability contribute to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the contribution to the group of friends. I think Finland is back, so I hand over as the very last speaker in this segment. You have the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador. Can I just check if I'm being heard? Yes. Thank you, Ambassador. We would like to thank Antigua and Barbuda, Norway, and the Maldives for their efforts on this important topic, and I will be brief. As indicated by the DPR of Sweden, Finland, along other Nordic countries, believes that a new global agreement would be a best solution that will provide the long-term and stable framework that is needed to achieve a stronger response to the problem of marine plastic litter. We therefore thank you for this initiative of founding this group of friends where we can proceed with discussions regarding this issue. The common global structure should support governments in their national policies, as well as strengthening work in the regions, support scientific development and technical advances, and overall enable the international community to monitor progress towards significantly reducing the discharges of plastic waste and microplastics into the environment. UNEA 5 in 2021 will play a key role on deciding the future way for this work. And we would like to see member states coming together at UNEA 5 to start intergovernmental negotiations towards a new global agreement. Finland is committed to our common ambition in resolving the plastics challenge. Together, we can strengthen the political will for global action to combat marine plastic pollution, and we look forward to working together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. As we have now exhausted the list of speakers, I would like to thank really wholeheartedly all the participants for sharing their reflection here this morning. It has clearly demonstrated our collective resolve to further this very, very important agenda. It is now my great pleasure to hand over to my dear friend, Ambassador Walton Alfonso Webson of Antigua and Barbuda for the closing remark. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mona. And I thank you for leading us through this very exciting part of our project and the process to get this group started. Excellencies, colleagues, happy Ocean Day. On behalf of my friends, the ambassadors of Norway and the Maldives, and on my own behalf, the ambassador of Antigua and Barbuda, I would surely like to express our sincere thanks to all who participated in this launch today. Today, we have more than 600 participants who have joined us. And that's a significant number to get this exciting project started. Further, since we started, 2 other countries, Djibouti and Liechtenstein, have indicated their willingness to be founding members, and we welcome and embrace them. Mine is very simple, simply to say thanks to all of you who have participated. I want to express sincerely our thanks to the Honorable Prime Minister of Norway for her words of encouragement and support. Norway has been a long-standing partner in this fight and has continued to work to lead this process. Last year, Antigua and Barbuda, working with the then PGA, were extremely pleased to work with Norway and others in the effort to fight to bring about the ban on plastic within the United Nations itself, headquarters. We were happy to host, as part of that process, a worldwide initiative in Antigua and Barbuda at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium to share the thoughts of the world and to collaborate and ask the world to join us in getting rid of single-use plastic. We'd also like to thank the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs of Norway for his very warm words of encouragement and his commitment of his country. We'd also similarly like to thank my own Minister of the Blue Economy and the Social Transformation, Minister Jonas, for his words of encouragement and for his support and the continued commitment of Antigua and Barbuda in this struggle. We are grateful with the presence and the words that was shared with us with the director of UNEP, Madam Anderson. We are also grateful for the words shared with us by the PGA and by the Representative Peter Thompson for their kind words and their support and encouragement. We know that we are all in this together, and we thank you. We, the co-chairs, are encouraged and empowered by the overwhelming support we received today from member states who have spoken, member states who have declared the commitment to joining the group and to working together. I want to assure our friend Francisco from Portugal that this group of friends will work along and collaboratively with his group so that we can work together, because we are in this together. We must build cleaner oceans and cleaner seas. As I said, we are starting this with now 47 members who have made their commitments. And this has given us great encouragement and support. We have representation from a broad geographical region from all over the world. And it means that we are all recognizing the problem. And as was said by some speakers, the problem by the ambassador from Japan, we are finding plastic in parts of the world that we are not even living in. And we cannot ruin our nation, our earth like this. The mobilization of us all together to get rid of unwanted plastic and get rid of plastic in our seas is of great importance and encouragement. Thank you for joining this collaboration and this coalition. Thank you for the work you are doing because we have just begun. Finally, we have heard your statements and look forward to deepening our engagement and our commitment to combating marine plastic waste at the local, regional, and international levels. We will forge a strong coalition. We will forge strong relationships. We will build partnerships with civil society and the private sector. And together, we will work as one with strategy and with purpose to get rid of this menace from our oceans and seas. We depend on our oceans and seas, and we together will work as in our coalition to move forward and to move this needless scourge towards cleaning our oceans and seas. I thank you. This, colleagues, I think ends our meeting and our lunch, and we want to again thank all for joining us. Are the colleagues from Norway on organizers online? Could you? Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you.